everything's working now. Alright, so with that in mind, let's talk about my character. This is a character I've been playing for a while, and yeah, we need to discuss him. Alright, so this is my Blade Vortex Poison Shadow. He's level 89 in Talisman Softcore. As you can see, I've got over 5k life, and I've got some various things going on. So let's start with my gear. Gear's probably the biggest single self-explanatory thing that kind of can tell about the whole build. So, beginning with my chest, okay? This holds our main skill, which is Blade Vortex, linked with Poison, Increased Duration, Controlled Destruction, and Spell Echo. Okay? Blade Vortex is a new skill that was added in the most recent patch, and it causes an ethereal blade to spin around you for a duration, repeatedly passing through enemies that it passes, repeatedly damaging enemies that it passes through. Base duration is 5. You can have up to 50 active blades at a time. So when I cast this, you can see a bunch of blades just come out around my character. Each of those blades hits twice per second. Okay. The big thing here is that we support this with the Poison gem. Okay. Poison as a base deals 10% of the attack's physical damage as poison damage per second for 2 seconds. Okay. But here's the thing: the poison gem, the duration of your poison is scaled by any increased duration that's linked to the skill, like my gem here, as well as all the increased skill duration you have from the skill tree. Okay, so this means I'm in a place right now where my poison damage is approximately 37% of the initial physical hit, as chaos damage per second over about 5.5 seconds, combined with the increased duration from the quality and from this gem here. So my tooltip DPS without any power charges is around 4k. That's very deceptive. This I probably do. I have no idea how much damage I do. I actually haven't done the calculation, but I have an average of around 475 physical damage per hit. And yeah, poison can stack indefinitely. Our blades last 13.15 seconds. Okay. So justification for other supports: increased duration makes Blade Vortex last longer, so you can get more stacks, which is therefore more DPS. You also don't have to cast as often. I've talked about poison. This thing adds an insane amount of damage. If you think about 37.5% of your base physical damage per second for 5.5 seconds, it comes out to a pretty silly number. It ends up adding about double what the base damage is, if the target even lives that long. Spell Echo is pretty self-explanatory. You want to get as many of these up as you can. And then Controlled Destruction, we enhance the physical damage of the spell, and it will scale the poison damage as well, for some double dipping. The 100% reduced critical strike chance doesn't really matter because the skill hits so quickly, it crits all the time anyways. Okay? As you can see with the piece this is a... Well, we'll talk about the pieces later. Keep talking about skills now. So, other core skills here. So, we have Blasphemy linked with Warlord's Mark. So, this is the aura around us that causes enemies to be cursed. The big thing here is they grant the Life Leech, the Mana Leech, which we actually need to keep stacking. I don't have the mana regen to be able to sustain a 55 mana cost spamming really fast. I can get up to about 25 to 30 stacks without doing anything, so that's pretty good. But the cool thing is, we actually stun most enemies frequently, and granting endurance charges to us to make us tankier. Our other aura is Hatred, 36% of our physical damage added as extra cold damage. It's pretty obvious why you want to do that with a physical spell like Blade Vortex. Other support skills. So we have linked here, we have another Blade Vortex linked with increased duration to last longer and power charge on crit. This enables us to generate our power charges. So we cast this once or twice occasionally, and it'll pretty much keep us at full power charges as long as we're fighting. The other thing I have linked up here is my Summon Flame Golem for 20% damage, which is really nice. To move around, we have Flicker Strike linked with Fortify, faster attacks, and Whirling Blades. So I have 2 skills to move around. Flicker is nice to jump to enemies, and also nice in PvP, and Whirling Blades is very, very good. If you guys don't know that already, you should. These gloves hold my cast when damage taken setup. We have greater multiple projectiles linked with Arctic Breath and Tempest Shield. So this character has a ton of increased duration nodes. The actual duration of the ground ice from Arctic Breath is close to 2 seconds, which means that we chill enemies all the time. This is a great defensive tool. And our Tempest Shield lasts close to 20 seconds, just for that additional block chance, which is really nice. And last but not least, our shield holds a manual cast, Immortal Call, and Enduring Cry, linked with yet another increased duration gem. Having increased duration with Enduring Cry makes the life regenerated per second last longer. This lasts a little over 2 seconds, so right now this is about like a 650 life or so heal. And this grants us endurance charges to use against bosses. So if you're in a situation so you see how the blades aren't really that big around us. So that means that we have to get relatively close to our foes to be able to kill them. Which means that we need a lot of armor. You can see this is a high armor shield. We also potentially need to be able to pop a skill like Immortal Call to become physical immune against a tough boss like Carnage, the boss of the Colonnade map. Okay, so in terms of my gearing choices, you can see we have Armor Helm with Strength and Life and Resist, very high armor shield. We have at Zeri's Step. I was able to incorporate these because I had more than enough resist on my gear. I needed something with predominantly deck stats for my movement skills, and this is just great tankability if you don't need more resist on your boots. And then a pair of armor evasion rating gloves, life and resist, and you've seen my chest, life, resist, strength, some armor. In terms of jewelry, you want a rustic sash with life and resist, generally speaking, for a build like this, because you can scale the physical damage. I have a very good resist ring here, and then because I don't need resist on my other ring, I can have life, mana regen, rarity with some crit chance, which is nice. There's a few potential mods I could add to this, but I'm keeping it open in case I need to change a piece of gear and need to craft a resist. And for my talisman, I am using, for my amulet, I'm currently using a Break Rip talisman with all adds, life, mana regen, and elemental resists. I mean, if I could get something that was a Break Rib that had life and res and like crit, that would be insane, but obviously I don't have that. The one unique I am using, which you guys probably saw earlier, we have a Divinarius here. So we have that crit chance for spells and that spell damage and that increased AoE of skills, which is really nice. This has an AoE tag, and as you can see, it's a dagger, which lets us use Whirling Blades. Okay. Let's quickly go through the passive tree. I've made some interesting decisions here. As you can see, I am a shadow. Now, some of the cool things is, again, like nodes with physical and chaos scale the damage of the poison really well because they scale your base damage as well as scaling the added damage from the poison. So all these shadow start nodes that are like physical damage and chaos damage are really, really good. Yeah, so we go out through crit. I've dropped down and gotten nullification here for some extra life. I potentially could drop these because they don't actually give me that much life, but we'll see. It hasn't been a big deal. There's going to be a few other changes I'm probably going to make. But yeah, we got spell crit over here, we got life over here, physical and chaos damage, and then this node here, Force Shaper, adds 5% of our physical damage as extra chaos damage, which is very powerful because that's 5% more damage off our base, and that 5% extra damage is chaos. Poison works off both physical and chaos, which is really, really nice. Then we jump over into the Witch Tree for life and mana, AoE node, spell crit, as well as some mana here and life. And then you can see I have the Melding Cluster here. You see that these things add armor. So remember seeing that super high armor shield. As I was getting higher up into the difficulties, I noticed that, again, I got crushed at melee range by high physical damage enemies. So I decided to armor up and get endurance charges. So I'm using an energized armor jewel here to change all the to change these into armor and life nodes instead of armor and ES nodes. And this has actually worked out really well. If you want to do an armor-based poison crit build like mine, I would highly recommend using this. And then over here we have Anatomical Knowledge, which this is the best place to put it if you're going to use this jewel, because this is the place that has the most life in the radius, because of Occultist Dominion and all the travel nodes. You can also potentially put one up here, but there isn't quite as much intelligence around this one. But this is another good spot for it. Then as you can see, we have all the skill duration nodes near Scion, which gives a total of 90% increased skill duration from the tree. I think my Blade Vortex is something like 180% increased skill duration or something silly like that. Or it's 160, that's right. I'm starting to fill out the life wheel here. On my next level, I'm going to put in the point of this AoE here, and then drop these 2 intelligence nodes and come in here just to get some more DPS. I do have Righteous Decree and Deep Thoughts to help me sustain my mana pool. As you can see, it's rather large, and just so I can cast without having enemies around. And this build does need a lot of dex because Blade Vortex is a pure dex gem, so you can see I have Alacrity up here. You need 155 dex. I have 158. And let's see, Flicker Strike also needs 155 dex. So I could potentially craft dex on my ring, and if I get a high enough roll, I could potentially drop this node, which is something I'm considering, but we'll see. Yeah, so you've seen the passive tree, you've seen the gear. Let's see how it clears